Alright, back again. Today we got out the old Neo-Geo AES, and I figured we could put in this game here. Ghost Pilots. So, let's pop that in and play some of that. Now, at first glance, this game may seem quite simplistic, but it's actually a pretty difficult shooter. Not so much for the bullets, but the different enemies on screen and not knowing what they're going to do. Since the intro here is pretty short, we'll let it roll through and you can take a look at that. Alright, so let's get into it here. When you first get into the game, it'll give you a couple of options here for bombs. You get more as the game progresses, but this one just drops on the ground, takes a couple of seconds to explode, and this one's pretty instant, creates like a field around you. Now, let's just pause the game here for a second. If you take a look at the graphics so far, it seems like a pretty simplistic game. The graphics themselves don't look like super out there or anything super special, but the graphics pretty much stay the same throughout the game. There are some differences in different stages, but for the most part you're staying in this kind of area here. Now, as we go on, like I'd mentioned before, the enemies here, they do some pretty tricky stuff which can cause you to die by example doing barrel rolls, coming up from behind you, cutting across. Pretty much if you can't kill it first try, stay away from it because they will take you out. Here's your bombs. If you press up after exploding your bomb on this particular one, you can launch them forward. If you press sideways, you can launch them to the side. It's kind of like a force field around you. And by shooting the red airplanes, you'll get different letters. Example, S is for your shot, B is for your bombs. Your shot can increase here, but it's pretty much a button mashing game. So to kind of get out of this is a little bit cheating, but we'll give it a shot here anyway. What's nice about having the Universe BIOS here is you don't have to hear all the button mashing sounds in the background. Even with this on, it still isn't going to help a whole lot. These enemies are really tricky, and you got a lot of shots and a lot of enemies coming around from different angles. It does get pretty intense after a while. The game itself is good. It's challenging for sure. One thing, unlike, for example, Strikers 1945 for the Neo-Geo, in that game if you get kind of touched by another plane, it'll reduce power a little bit, or it'll make a noise. In this one, even if you slightly brush up against an enemy, just like in real life, your plane explodes and you lose a life, so you really got to be careful. You can go throughout the game collecting stars here, and yeah, pretty much just got to keep, be careful around this, the different enemies on screen, because just the slightest mistake can cause you to lose. Now, like I said before, it does get more challenging. The enemies will come up from behind you, they'll come around sideways, they'll come from above and drop below. But it is another great shooter here. Let's see if we can cheat just a little bit more. Maximum weapon power. Just for demonstration purposes. This isn't invincibility or anything like that, so, even if we die, or we still can die in this one here, but just to give you an idea on what the max weapon would look like here. This is pretty much maxed out. But it is another good shooter. Like I said, it's just the most difficult part is trying to watch the bullets and the enemies not knowing what they're going to do. They start to zigzag it up, flying sideways. Well, there we just died, but flying sideways, coming from the side. Here's our first boss here. And I'm dying while I'm talking. Launch our bomb out there. Ah! Yeah, concentrate. But, yeah, the bosses have a lot of similarities to them. They don't change so much as far as, like, the things that they do. It's not too bad, but it could use just a little bit more as far as, like, interesting concepts go. After a while, you begin to think, okay, it's the same stage over and over again, but nonetheless, the difficulty does increase quite a bit. If you can find it for a reasonable price, I'd recommend picking it up. I wouldn't recommend picking it up for like an extreme amount of money, as, you know, the game is not super common, not super rare, but if somebody's trying to sell it for a really expensive price, I would try to avoid that and try and find yourself a better deal. And definitely you can download this and play it, give it a shot for yourself, and see what you think for yourself. Everyone might have their own take on it. Like I said, it's not a bad game, it's just, in some parts it's just lacking just a little bit. When you wind up completing a stage and you get the points for that stage, it makes kind of a little bit of a sound. Kind of sounds like NES or Super NES, like doo-doo, doo-doo sound. Doesn't sound all that impressive, but probably the most impressive part is just all the different enemies and the different things they do. I don't really need those S's because I'm kind of maxed out. With this particular weapon here, what makes it really hard is if you press up once, it automatically goes forward. If you press left or right, it goes that direction. So it basically leaves you uncovered here while you're shooting away. And yeah, that can really hurt you, especially if you're trying to hit something and then you move the wrong direction to avoid a bullet, and then you wind up taking your shield the other direction and leaves you kind of stranded there. The other bombs or the other different explosions you can get are different, you know. They'll allow you to drop bombs on the ground, create different spread patterns, things like that. But unfortunately, like I said, they have different time settings, so some of them may take longer to get off. For example, there's one that drops 4 on the ground, but it takes like, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds. So if you don't know where you're going to drop it, you're kind of out of luck. If you don't know there's going to be a huge amount of enemies in front of you, then you drop it, and then sure enough, it takes 2 or 3 seconds to explode, and you're just waiting that whole time getting hit from all angles. But that's the sound that I was talking about. This is not going to be the greatest gameplay vid by any means, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Here's 2 different routes you can take. We'll take the right one. This is the weapon that I'm talking about. This one creates an explosion on the ground, but once again, it takes a few seconds to get off, so it kind of leaves you vulnerable for that period of time. Give you an example here. Let's drop it. So I pressed that button, you know, a good two seconds before. Pressed it now, and that's how long it takes to explode. So you really got to know when to use these weapons here. And each weapon does have a specific amount of time that it takes to explode. I'm dying left and right in this game here, but kind of hard to talk and play at the same time. Nonetheless, if you're into challenges and you're into shooters, then this might be another one to try if you haven't tried it yet. As you can see, just the slightest bump here will kill you. So you really got to be careful. You can't stay in the middle all the time. You can't stay towards the back all the time. You got to switch it up a lot. Another cool thing that those red airplanes will give you is sometimes they'll give you one-ups. It really depends on where they are and which ones you hit. But the other thing that I find a little bit kind of unfair is the fact that your ship or your airplane moves like a ship. It moves like a boat. It's not very quick, but the other airplanes that come flying at you just, you know, totally take you out. They're, you know, they come fast, and if you don't see it coming, you're gonna have no chance to get out of the way. It'd be nice if the airplane just had a little bit more power here to get going faster sideways and to dodge out of the way, but that's another thing that makes it challenging, I suppose. But we're starting to run out of time here. Just want to show you a little bit of what ghost pilots look like from the Neo-Geo, and if you have time, yeah, might be worth downloading just to see what it's like. But that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching.